What if you could get rid of your kitchen?
Hey everybody,
at the push of a button?
quick check-in.
And
I got
tequila,
this on
and I want you to choose your
homelessness
lifetime loan.
to start out.
Venice
About
Beach in Los
10
Angeles
cities.
is known for its relaxed, tolerant lifestyle. There were once a few people living in tents along the city's famous boardwalk. However, the pandemic fueled the rise of Americans without housing. Now the tents are a city of their own, just one example of a growing displaced population in Los Angeles. City authorities eased rules and allowed people to sleep along the beachfront, while officials worried that dispersing communities would spread COVID-19. Kennard Durr works as a vendor on Venice Beach and was once without housing himself. He says he's never seen the issue balloon like this in 3 decades of being there.
When COVID hit, it was a whole different ballgame. It got maybe like 10 times the amount of homeless people. There had never been homeless on the hill or on the grass, to the point that locals like, hey, what's going on?
With an influx of people migrating to the beach, conditions have grown worse. Venice officials looked to another LA neighborhood, Echo Park, for solutions. Last month, a city initiative offered shelter to a nearly 200-person encampment there, and virtually all of them accepted. But those who declined faced a removal operation, with police officers clearing structures and tents, despite protesters flooding Echo Park to stop them. Venice City Councilman Mike Bonin says the focus should be on finding housing, not police action.
Let's work on getting the damn housing and get people housed. If you are talking about hundreds of police officers in riot gear coming and taking over a neighborhood, arresting people, and closing off a major public park in the city of Los Angeles, then no, I'm not in favor of that at all.
Not everyone agrees. Mark Rayovic is a Venice Beach activist and advisor who believes Echo Park should be a model.
Why are they not doing it here and bringing this park back to public use and helping all of these people? We have assaults and fires and some deaths out here routinely. They all need that help, and the public would like this back. It should never have been allowed to slide and get into this terrible condition.
The question remains how Los Angeles can relocate tens of thousands of people without trampling their rights. On Monday, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti proposed one step, a nearly $1 billion budget to provide beds for those who need them.
All right, so I have a longer documentary. I may get into half of it today, but not all of it, just because, as I mentioned, trying to have me leave the site, which I definitely don't want to do. The Tent City documentary, and there actually are several. So that was LA. This one is Phoenix, Charlotte, and Florida, and Michigan. So as we see this trend expanding and the need for social work, doing the micro level social work, sometimes you do have to dip into the macro level social work. And so individuals, families, or small groups, personal adjustment, interpersonal relationships, and environmental stresses. We see how we can't just like look and focus on one of the little things in the middle. We got to expand out to the whole society, communities, and complex organizations. The breakdown of determinants and social functioning of individuals for families and small groups. I'm going to zoom in on this so you guys can see it a little bit bigger. You've got, this is from chapter 3, so genetics, that could be your prenatal health and even size, families in small groups, sometimes relationship patterns. There's also nutrition, developmental disability, unity, mental health, disabling condition, rules and personality and values with help, coping capacity, and then getting into income, assets, self-concept, maybe money that you either got as a adult, job you've gotten, jobs your parents had, ethnicity, motivation, cognition level, cultural heritage, developmental stage. We have a lot on Native American reservations, and they're rich with land and some resources, but maybe not as much. There could be a multi-generational pattern that could be alcoholism. Then with families and small groups, you do look at relationships patterns, socioeconomic level, and then kinship works. So as you can see, the holistic assessment as a social worker, all those different things that you do want to look at. So on the meso level of social work intervention, you'll work with formal groups and complex organizations. You also work with issues that are group organizational functioning, also patterns of decision making, styles of interaction, and then all of these. So with groups and organizations, then you have a focus and purpose with the group, maybe a past history together, which developmental stage are they in, any characteristics of individual members, maybe one's an alpha and the other is more of a follower. With organizations, you have bureaucracy, different personal management, membership roles, governance, organizational behavior, administrative functions, and day-to-day operations. So a lot of things that you'll look at as you move up in the social work jobs. This is a big one: conflict resolution style, group cohesion if you are doing work with a large group, socialization, norms and values of the group. So there's some of those. Leadership roles, and then setting of the group meetings, because you do have to organize that. Other macro level social work interventions. So here you're working with neighborhoods, communities, and societies. Some of the activities are like community organizing, economic development, which we heard about in the tent city homelessness video, just that 2-minute one in Los Angeles. Maybe legislative action. They did speak with a congressman or a city council member there. And then policy formulation, like how do they make their policy when they see a large issue of homelessness coming through. And this goes over more of the determinants of social functioning for communities and societies, even world communities. So housing, transportation, economy. Do you have availability of jobs, which has been big the past 2 years in coronavirus? And I feel like we're hitting a recession area where it will be worse. Standard of living, urban, rural, cultural diversity lifestyle, environmental stress, availability of resources, and then support networks. With society, you have technology, which this is something 2 years ago we actually didn't have at Central State. We never taught online. In fact, social work is still in person, and why I come into the classroom to do this, because I'm teaching to the classroom. Anyone who shows up, it's confidential because we don't turn the video that way, but I'm teaching to the classroom, and you can also see it on YouTube from your home because of coronavirus. Social values, social class, stratification. You have institutions, alienation, economic cycles. This is a big one again. Our last on record recession was like 08 and 09. And that's when we started quantitative easing, which I'm going to get into. That's kind of how basically the government was printing money. So a lot of it went to like support these programs, maybe student loans, some of the Affordable Care Act. Government, the isms, prejudice, and pop culture. Then with the world community, and we are turning to a more global society, and the recession will likely be global. World poverty, hunger, food storage, that's huge right now, because it's possible, if you guys have the time to do a search, look up a grand solar minimum. We're supposed to be in that for 7 to 10 years right now, and it's harder to grow food during a grand solar minimum. There's more viruses during a grand solar minimum. different things that you see with monkeypox and things of that nature. Got space exploration, human rights, the population base that has grown. So in 45, we had about 2 billion. In 1960s and 70s, we maybe had more of 3 to 4 billion. And we kind of had a population growth that was exponential. So in the late 70s, we had about 5 billion. In the 80s, we had 5.5 to 6 billion. And by 99, we had over 6 billion people on the planet. And then the past 20 years, we've added another 2 billion. So we do have a large population base, also political climate, energy, power and authority base, threat of war. And that's been a big thing lately, as we've seen some of that come up with war lately. So something to look out for. Also working with the social work profession. So there's a lot of people that we do case management with and for. So working with the profession, there's different activities that we do. Renew and refine the profession and promote a just society. We also have the integrated generalist model, which is what we train people to be here at Central State, is a generalist social worker. So the basis here is the issues rather than the methods. We don't get into therapy as much until you get the graduate degree, but learning how to case manage, how to do simultaneous interventions at multiple systems levels. So getting back to that chart where there's several multiple systems going on. And we'd employ a variety of models and methods. So maybe it is case management, maybe it is connecting them with a therapist, getting them the resources they need. It could be housing, it could be a connection with the food bank, it could be some of those things that come up that are important for people's lifestyle. Also addressing diverse client problems and needs. Those are some of the ones that come up. And with the homelessness documentary, I wanted to get into at least half of this to show some of the...
This is what your dishwasher looks like after 1 year. It's a colony of billions of mold and bacteria living deep inside your...
So skipping the advertisement, but getting into this tent city.
It's not that I'm not trying to not be out here, because believe me, everybody, I don't want to be out here.
I know myself, I'm ready to go back indoors. It sucks.
You hear people throw out some rude remarks saying, get a job, you filthy bum.
It's just something so out of place, and it scares people.
There's got to be an answer to solve this problem rather than just keep pushing them from neighborhood to neighborhood.
They were taking tents, and they started pulling our tents up, and whether we wanted to or not, they were taking them.
It wasn't giving us a chance to get nothing out.
The garbage is the worst, and it smells like feces over there.
We've witnessed daily drug use and drug dealing in broad daylight.
Housed or houseless, this camping is illegal. I don't want this camp to stay here though, because now my children have been put at risk.
They steal stuff off of our porch, out of our yard. They go through our garbage cans.
It's not that I feel unsafe in my home. I feel unsafe now leaving my home.
The heroin, the house break-ins, the car break-ins. This is not a homeless problem. This is criminal behavior.
Why are we seeing so many tents on any given night? We've got 1,600 or more people sleeping outside. This is a very human and very real and complicated situation.
Given a choice tonight, would you rather sleep in a shelter or in a tent?
How long have you been in Portland?
My opinion, my outlook on things, I really believe that Portland could do a lot better.
Portland's always had homelessness, but this is different. The tents, they're visible. They're in your face.
Yeah, they are. It seems like they're everywhere, but there are also people living inside those tents. And, during this process, we spent time with more than 100 of them. It's no way to live.
And people are compassionate, yes, but they're frustrated. The tents, the trash, it's changed the look of our town.
And it's pretty clear by this point that there's no easy solution. But before we even begin to talk about solutions, we wanted to kind of get to know who's living inside these tents and why.
This is the survey that we created. Basic questions, just a few of them, asking about how long these people have been living in tents, why they're living in tents. And really our goal is to go out and talk to these people who are living in tents, whether it be on the roadside, in a park, wherever we find them.
It's kind of embarrassing sometimes, But this is the first time I've really been this homeless.
So we're going around and we're surveying 100 people living in tents to try and find out more about who these people are.
Most of the people are pretty decent out here. You won't find very many that, are heartless and mean. Most of them are really good people. They just have little struggles in their life. Everybody does.
You walk out your tent 10 feet, not even 10 feet, you can touch another tent. Every 4 or 5 feet, you can touch another tent. There's a lot more tents now than there were before.
Why do you think that is?
People need housing. That's not really housing, need help. Not everybody can do it by themselves. Not all able.
For all those people who drive by and see your tent, what would you want them to know about you? Or what should they know about you?
Human just like them. Just fell down and just need help getting back up, I guess.
How long have you been living in a tent?
Since the 6th of August.
Recently then? So you've only been in a tent for a few weeks.
I honestly hate this so much. I wish I could be home. I wish I could be in my bed, in my room, able to eat whenever I want. But now I have to walk at least 5 to 6 blocks to eat something or go to the bathroom. It's really difficult.
How long have you been living in a tent?
About a year.
This ain't as easy as most people think. It ain't.
It's not camping.
No, it's not. Not even close. I love going camping, and this just ain't it. This ain't camping at all.
Why do you live in a tent versus other sheltered locations?
Because I don't like shelters. They're dirty, they're gross, they're just not sanitary. I like having my own space and living with my significant other. Shelters, you can't stay with your significant other. Tents it's like my own space, secluded. I can do my own thing. I have my own. I don't have a given amount of certain time where I have to be in somewhere.
What if you could get rid of your kitchen garbage?
So there's several reasons people become homeless, and this is a good documentary that gets into them. And as a social worker, getting them back to those resources they need is our generalist approach, what we teach here. So as this commercial expires, we'll get back into that. They do a lot of data, so you'll see a lot of statistics like people have a challenge with the shelters, or maybe with the rules they couldn't bring their family or husband in.
A shelter, I can't go because of my dogs, and I'm not willing to give my animals up. My animals are like family to me. I'm not willing to give them up for somebody to be in a shelter. It's about 2 days for.
You've only been this month.
Yeah.
Do you expect you can stay for a while?
No, we'll move on pretty soon. We'll go on down the trail. Mm-hmm.
And they'll force you out, or will you voluntarily move? Why are you going to move?
Because we try to move before the park rangers come. We try to keep moving on.
it's the challenge for these folks. I mean, they don't know necessarily how long they can be in one spot for a certain amount of time before they have to pack up and head somewhere else. So, you talk about insecurity, I think this is part of it. Yeah, it almost seems like this game of cat and mouse where you set up.
It is. Is
it difficult?
It is. It's difficult.
So where are you going now?
Not really sure.
Move to the next spot?
Something like that, yeah.
We get told to do like every week. So, even the ones that keep their places clean or whatever, it doesn't matter what you do.
We've been finding that a lot of these people, not all of them, but a lot of them, have drug or alcohol problems. Some of them have mental health issues.
Honestly, after being out here for a long time, I really believe that like 80% of the people are out here because they want to be. Because either it's their choice to live the way they're living or because of drug abuse, that's what they're choosing. But not very many people are like really wanting to, like there are some, but a lot of people want to be where they're at, I think. They're not ready to make changes.
When did you come to Portland?
I've lived here my whole life, pretty much.
I've lived here my whole life.
Whole life.
When I was in Fort.
What's your whole life?
Grew up here.
Yeah. The thing I'm finding in talking to these people is they're not coming to town because of opportunity or because there are tents available. These are people who have lived here their entire life or for decades. I mean, they're not newcomers. Given a choice tonight, would you rather sleep here or in a shelter?
Probably here. Less people, less headaches. I don't do well with people and, yeah.
I sleep in a tent. I'd much rather sleep in a tent, but I'd sure like to have drawers for my socks and things.
Oh, tent.
Tent. Why is that?
Because too many people.
In shelters.
Yeah.
Too many people.
Yeah.
For you, are there other options besides a tent? I mean, are there other places you could stay?
I don't have a family here. I got my oldest boy. He lives out in Colgate here, but he's got 5 kids of his own. He's got his own family, and I really don't let on to them, how I'm not really that good.
As far as it goes, it's my home.
I wish you the best.
Thank you.
That's the thing. You talk to these people living in tents, they all have a story.
Yeah, I mean, it happens every time I walk into a homeless camp. I always meet somebody who grabs me in some way, whether they sort of pull at my heartstrings, or they piss me off, they make me happy, they make me frustrated. In this process, I met a woman named Willow who actually let me spend a few days with her. All right, so we're here. It is Wednesday morning. We're here kind of where the Springwater Corridor meets Foster. We're here to find Willow. When we first met Willow a couple of weeks ago, she was staying where 205 crosses Woodstock. And she'd been there for a while, but that was ODOT land. We've covered this a lot. ODOT crews came and told her and her friends to move along, so they have now moved to land just next to the Springwater Corridor, and they said, hey, if you want to come follow us, you have to come here. So we're coming here. We haven't seen their new spot yet. We're going to go find her, and the plan is to pretty much follow her throughout the day. Let's go do it.
Willow has told us where she'd be,
Anybody back here?
but it's not exact.
Hi everyone, Mark Barton here at CEDU.
So as you see, some of the things that come up is they do have to move frequently. So whether it's with police or they said ODOT, so like Ohio Department of Transportation, Oregon Transportation, they won't let them stay. A lot of campsites you actually have to pay for. So to find free ones, I think you only can go to federal lands. So with that, and the commercial ending, get back to the video.
You can see here we're kind of getting into the parts of the corridor that are more brush covered.
And there's a chance she could have had to move again. It happens a lot.
Hey guys, I'm really sorry to bother you. We're with Channel 8. We're looking for Willow.
We find her and her camp. No one else wants to be on camera.
Yeah, is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my.
Okay. We meet around a corner.
Hey, Willow.
And right away, we're walking.
We cross over that way. Yeah, Luna.
Willow's dog Luna has an eye infection. Taking her to the vet will be no quick trip.
It's crazy. I forget how industrial of an area this is.
Translation, she says, nothing out here is easy.
This last winter was really harsh.
On the way, we learn about Willow's life.
And I love my kids.
She talks of her 2 grown kids.
They're the best thing I've ever done in my life.
And the husband she lost to leukemia. She was 29.
We had been together for 14, 15 years.
After that, her life and her business in California collapsed.
I just couldn't stay there because everything reminded me of it.
That is one reason Willow is homeless. The other, she's epileptic. Weekly seizures leave her tired and confused. She lives off of disability, roughly $700 a month.
I mean, it would take all of my check to pay rent.
Yeah.
And then I'd have nothing to live on at all.
10 a.m. We're at the Max stop.
I'll be right back.
Break time.
I got a brand new thing. You got a brand new thing. I think we should get together. Try them out to see.
It's crazy to think about. All she's trying to do is get eye cream for her dog. Her dog's had this eye infection on and off for a year. And she blocked out 4 hours of her day for this one errand. Most of us, we take our dog to the vet, maybe an hour, hour and a half, you do it on your lunch break. For her, this is her day. And it might not even work because it depends on if the clinic has time.
We're riding the Green Line north. This route is familiar.
Yeah, there's a bridge coming up. It's where we stayed. When I was first homeless.
Willow's been homeless in Portland for almost a decade.
How many would you say were staying under there?
About 5 to 9.
5 to 9.
Yeah.
Is there a point where it's so many people in one spot that it can get kind of crazy?
Oh, well, yeah, it is. You get like the spring water corridor. There's so many people. It's like never quiet. Yeah, Lena.
We get off at 82nd Avenue and walk to the Portland Animal Welfare Team. That's a nonprofit that provides free vet care.
I told them it was because of.
Most days you need an appointment. We don't have one.
And you go primarily by Willow.
Yeah.
Staff ask Willow for ID. That's a problem.
My backpack was just stolen not too long ago. And fortunately, I kept my picture ID in my phone case, but all the rest of my ID and stuff was in there.
We hear that a lot. Many living outside don't have any IDs. They've been lost or stolen. Without those, getting a job, an apartment, or a replacement is next to impossible. Today, Willow is out of luck. Luna, her eye pink and swollen, won't be seen by a doctor.
Would you be able to come back for an appointment next Wednesday, the 23rd?
We head out.
So they said to come back in a week.
Yeah, next Wednesday.
Is that frustrating to you or is that okay?
No, it's great. At least she's going to be taken care of. I'll just keep cleaning it out with those, because I have a wash, and I wash.
Next, on to another nonprofit. It's called Join. Willow gets her mail there, and her disability check is
When I
due.
stayed underneath the Max train.
As we walk, we hear stories of how cruel people can be to campers. One woman was ruthless.
She said, well, at least I worked. And then I didn't lay on my back like you did, unlike you, or something like that. Like she was referring that I was a prostitute or something.
How does that
that's,
hit you as a woman? I mean,
well, it's a little frustrating, that people prejudge.
At Join, Willow goes in.
Yeah, I'll take some food.
Minutes later, back out.
Come on, baby, I know it's hot. Come on.
And we walk away empty-handed. That check is late. It happens.
Well, one time it was like 6 days late.
that's a lot. I mean, if your rent is 6 days late or if your other bills.
$1,200, $5,000, and this one is $3,000.
every single month I get paid by Audible. If you don't know what Audible is, it's actually owned by Amazon, which is one of the biggest marketplaces in the world. But instead, Audible is where you can buy podcasts or audiobooks. The first time I heard about this was actually 3 years ago when I met Christian. Christian showed me how he was using Audible and how he was replacing his full-time income by just putting up these audio files on Audible. So he showed it to me, and then pretty much in a few months, I started doing the same thing, and it allowed me to quit my full-time job. Then I taught the same process to my mom, and my mom is making about $900 a month right now, and I'm even teaching it to my little brother so that he can pay for college. I want to show you how I was able to do this, but obviously this is an ad. If you click the link below, you'll be able to attend a free training where we walk through a very simple 4-step process on how you can do the same thing for yourself. And the best part is it's very beginner friendly. I knew nothing about online business or even that you could, sell things online, and I was able to make it work. My mom has no business experience.
So this is obviously an advertisement, but some of the things about people trying to do extra things for money to support their family in inflationary times. I was driving up to school today and saw that it's now $4.99 for just like unleaded, and I think $5.99 for diesel, which I know is also going to affect food prices again. And it's definitely something that people are looking for is other sources of income. So we have that come up frequently. And definitely a thing to consider, So we're going to get back into the tent city.
We get back on the train, still talking of money.
There are a couple people that do have jobs. Yeah.
But something is changing. Pauses are lingering. Epilepsy is taking over.
I'm having like a little bit of an absence seizure thing because I told you about before that I can't think straight.
An absence seizure, blank, cloudy periods that can hit out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go home and take a pill and go down under a tree or something.
Willow's afraid a full-blown seizure is coming next.
You want to just kind of chill and.
So we agree to stop the interview. But remember, we still have to get back to camp. It's a long walk. We take it slow. Willow insists she'll be okay, but her day is done. That night, Willow had that full-blown seizure, the kind that leaves her exhausted and confused. The next day, crews ordered her group to move again. It doesn't matter that Willow is tired. Life on the streets goes on.
I hear versions of Willow's story time and time again from people living in tents. They're all complicated stories and they don't have a clear path forward.
Well, one common thread we've heard from people living in tents, they've been here for years. But now suddenly we're seeing all these tents. Yeah. So what's changed?
Homeless camps, crime, and trash in the Lent neighborhood as people who live there asking the city for help.
Neighbors have found their car windows smashed, their garbage ransacked. Neighbors in Lents have had it with a seemingly endless cycle. Homeless camps
I've been a lot of places and I've never seen it like this ever. Portland is the worst. They steal stuff off of our porch, out of our yard. They go through our garbage cans.
We've witnessed daily drug use and drug dealing in broad daylight, people exposing themselves, defecating, urinating.
I'm Sergeant Randy Teig. I work at the East Precinct Neighborhood Response Team. From my perspective, it just slowly grew, and then it was like I went down the trail one day and went, what what just happened out here.
Well, why do you think tents, why has that created such conflict? I mean,
I think what it is, it's just a symbol of disorder. And I think that our communities are not designed to support that. And when you see it's just something so out of place and it scares people. I just think it's that simple. It's just not normal. And tents in a campground, normal. You know, tents along a bike path, not.
so at what point did we open the floodgates and really begin to set up tents?
I think probably into 2014, things started getting rapidly, depending on your perspective, getting worse or more people.
That's around the time that Portland was implementing rules required by a federal lawsuit known as Anderson versus the City of Portland. It would totally change the way the city deals with homeless, especially police. They had to post a notice at least 24 hours in advance of moving a camp. Camps couldn't be cleared at night. And police had to catalog and store any confiscated property. It protected the legal rights of campers, yes, but it slowed down the process of moving troublesome camps.
My name is Mark Joland. I'm the director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services.
Do we allow people to live in tents?
So that is a harder question to answer because on the one hand, it's not lawful to set up structures in the right of way. On the other hand, if someone sets up the tents who is homeless, they have some protections in place under legal settlements that have been entered into over the years.
We've always had homelessness. We've had some tents, right? But now there's just much greater number of tents. So what's changed?
You know, my wife's like, what'd you do after, 6 months?
So you see some of the legislation and how social workers have to become advocates in a sense with a lot of the issues that come up here. And we'll get back to the video after this advertisement.
So there are a couple of things driving that. To some extent, we have this concentration of folks who are struggling with disabilities and are sleeping outside and don't have options right now, and they're gravitating towards tents, and there are fewer kind of out of the way places anymore for folks to go if they're going to be in a tent. So that's mattered.
This is by far the single issue that we hear the most about. And virtually every one of the hundreds of calls we get every week starts like this. I'm a compassionate person, but.
Homelessness has always been an issue here, though. Why is it? What is it about the tents that brings out this little conflict and this this dynamic from the community?
Our city has been inconsistent and I would even argue ineffective in addressing the tent issue, focusing narrowly on that. For a number of years, we weren't even enforcing overnight camping codes.
We have to manage the problem as we move them more quickly into housing. That's the goal.
It was called the safe sleep policy. And a lot of people sleep in small groups, in tents, or on sidewalks during the evening hours. But the policy created a lot of confusion.
That gave Portland's homeless free reign to spend the night undisturbed in tents or sleeping bags on city sidewalks. But
Portland group has had enough of Mayor Charlie advocates, but they say the mayor's camping policy, which allows the homeless to sleep on the sidewalks and pitch their tents in public places, is actually doing more harm than good. And they say the decision
That process sort of kicked off a real shift on the ground around people where they chose to locate with tents, and the level of confusion it created and the challenges around creating real accountability on the ground for the choices people were making led to sort of a proliferation of tents in places we hadn't historically seen them. They became much more concentrated in a lot of situations.
Did Mayor Hill's policy create confusion? Was there misperception?
Yeah, they created a lot of confusion. I mean, officers did not know what they were allowed to do. This becomes a legal quagmire, basically. So it starts getting very complicated. And I just don't think that when he did that policy that he anticipated that problem.
I think they're not doing nothing about it. I think there's nothing, and there's no law saying we can't put a tent up, is there?
Charlie Hales wasn't around for an interview, but he sent an email and said, arguing about safe sleep is a sideshow at best. He pointed out that cities up and down the West Coast are dealing with the same issue, homelessness and tents.
Portland's homeless situation, while it is dire, I'm not making any excuses, it is dire. The reality is our homeless situation is not as severe as it is in Seattle, San Francisco, LA, or other cities up and down the West Coast. We don't believe camping in a tent is a humane alternative to living in a warm, dry place with access to water, access to showers, access to laundry, and access to social services that can actually help people get out of homelessness.
Do you foresee a day when there are no tents visible on the streets of Portland?
I think that has to be our goal in the sense that if we didn't have any tents on the streets of Portland, it would mean that we had figured out how to, scale our shelter and our housing programs to the level where everyone who found themselves with no better option in the moment had a better option.
Our goal was not to solve this problem, but to better understand it.
Right, remember, we wanted to figure out how we got here and who's living inside these tents.
Because clearly, there's no easy solution here, but maybe this is a step in the right direction.
If nothing else, it might be a step in understanding the complexity of this problem, and again, just recognizing these are real people.
They become invisible to a lot of people, people that just do not want to look in that direction.
Spend a week in my shoes.
It's not as easy as most people think. And they start a lazy bastard. No, it's a little more to it than that.
And they look at us like a zoo animal.
Just because we're homeless, it doesn't mean we're all bad.
I mean, it's hard. It's really hard. And I wish people around us would care a little bit.
So as you can see, this is the number one reason people will come to social services at first. This is like the primary one, like affordable housing and needs to care for self and
Take a drive through
family.
the back roads of rural America. You're bound to pass any number of boxy white trailers. These unremarkable 250 square foot homes are part of the forgotten.
So the other one, and I was going to get into this for next week, that come as a pressing addiction. So homelessness, food and water insecurity, food pantries and food shelters. And then the addictions. So there's one Pulitzer Prize documentary. You guys can look it up now, but it's 7 days of heroin in Cincinnati. And that's definitely one of the things that have come up to this opioid epidemic since the Afghan war started in 01 and 02, and it got really bad in 03 and 04.
Heroin addiction.
And I want you guys to get into this because there's definitely some challenges that have come up with the opioid epidemic and how we're handling it. There's been a lot of federal funds, a lot of social work jobs that have come up. I may just do the intro trailer, which I don't know if they have such a thing. I'll show you like the first minute of this.
Babies will be born to heroin addicted mothers. Courts will take children from addicted parents. Taxpayers will spend heavily to lock up drug users. People will overdose in gas stations and parks and school parking lots.
So this is an epidemic that was before the coronavirus pandemic.
It's the first day of another week of the heroin epidemic. Over the next 7 days in greater Cincinnati, at least 180 people will overdose. 18 will die.
So we'll get into that next week. We're starting on chapter 4. Remember to turn your papers. I'm keeping it open for you guys. So if you're a little behind, it is still heavily recommended to turn in. So have a good weekend and then see you on Monday.